And we are back with the Elevation to Krishna Consciousness by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, page number 24. To get rid of the sufferings of humanity is simultaneously a very difficult and also very easy affair. As long as the conditioned souls, who are themselves bound up by the laws of nature, manufacture plans to get rid of the three miseries, there will be no solution. The only effective solutions are those mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, and we have to adopt them in our practical lives for our own benefit. The three miseries of material nature are not found in the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. As mentioned before, He is eternally joyful, and His transcendental pastimes are not different from Him. Because He is the Absolute Truth, His name, fame, form, qualities, and pastimes are all identical with Him. His pastimes, therefore, cannot be equated with the sufferings of humanity, as the so-called Swami contends. The pastimes of the Supreme Lord are transcendental to the actual miseries and sufferings of human beings. The sufferings of humanity are caused by the misuse of the discriminative power or the little independence which is given to individual souls. The fraudulent swamis or mental speculators, in order to remain consistent with the theory of monism, must pass off the miseries of mankind as the pastimes of God. But actually, these miseries are only the enforced punishments of Maya Devi, inflicted upon the misguided, conditioned souls. Yes, so this is what we should say to those people who are saying, enjoy the pain and stuff, right? There are such categories of people. Seriously, I just always really, whatever's happening to you, just, enjoy it, be happy, no matter what. Really? Okay, so continuing. As living entities, we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Indeed, we actually belong to His superior energy. As such, we may join His transcendental pastimes in our unconditioned state of life. But as long as we are conditioned by the laws of karma, in contact with the inferior energy, our sufferings are our own creations, born of a gross misuse of our little independence. The impersonalist monists only misguide people by contending that the threefold miseries are a part of the Lord's pastimes. Such impersonalists and monists have misguided their followers because they incorrectly think that the Supreme Lord and the individual souls are equal in all respects. True, the individual souls are equal in quality with the Supreme Lord, but not in quantity. If the individual soul were quantitatively equal to the Supreme Lord, he would have never been subjected to the laws of material nature. Material nature is subordinate to the will of the Supreme Lord, and therefore he cannot be subjected to the laws of material nature. It is contradictory for the Lord to be subjected to the laws of His own inferior energy. Matah parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam sutremani ganaiva. Quote, O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. Unquote. Bhagavad Gita 7.7. Again, Sri Krishna states, Tribhir gunamayer bhavair ebhi sarvamidam jagat mohitam nabhijanati mamebhyah paramavyayam. Quote, deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above them and inexhaustible." Unquote. Bhagavad Gita 7.13. The individual souls who are put into the miseries of the material world are suffering the resultant reactions of their unsanctioned activities. This is the verdict of Bhagavad Gita. Tanaham dvishatah kruran samshareshu naradaman kshipam yajar samashubhan asurishveva yonishu. Quote, envious, mischievous, the lowest of mankind, these do I ever put back into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Unquote. Bhagavad Gita 16.19. The parts and parcels are meant to serve the whole, and when they misuse their independence, they are subject to the miseries of the laws of matter, just as criminals are subject to police action. The state considers its citizens to be its parts and parcels, and when a citizen misuses his relative independence, the state puts him under the police custody, police authority. The life of a citizen outside the prison and the life of a citizen within the prison are not the same. Similarly, the sufferings of the living entities within the prison of material nature cannot be equated with the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, which exist in the absolute freedom of Satchit Ananda. No government wants its citizens to act in such a way that they must go to prison and suffer tribulations. The prison house is undoubtedly constructed by the state government, but this does not mean that the government is anxious for its citizens to be put into it. Indirectly, the disobedient citizens force the government to construct the prison house. It is not done for the pleasure of the government, which has to spend a great deal of money in constructing and maintaining it. On the contrary, the government would be very glad to demolish prisons altogether, provided that there are no disobedient citizens in the state. In the same way, this material world is created by the Supreme Lord, but the Supreme Lord does not will that living entities be put in it. The living entities themselves make that decision. The residents of the material world are therefore different from those who are eternally engaged in the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord. The impersonal monists have no information of full-fledged, independent life in the eternal spiritual realm. According to them, the spiritual realm is simply void. This is like prisoners thinking that there is no life outside of prison. Life outside of a prison is certainly free from prison activities, but is not devoid of activity. The soul is by nature eternally active, but the impersonalists try to negate the activities of the soul in the spiritual realm. Thus, they misunderstand the miseries of prison life to be the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. This is due to their poor fund of knowledge. The Supreme Lord never creates the actions and reactions of an individual soul. This is it. Next time we blame God. In Bhagavad Gita, this matter is clearly defined in the following way. Na kartritvam na karmani lokasya srijati prabhuh na karma phala samyogam svabhavastu pravartate na datte kasyachit papam na chaiva sukritam vibhuh ajnanena vritam jnanam tena muhyanti jantava. Quote, the embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. Nor does the Supreme Spirit assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge." Unquote. Bhagavad Gita 5.14-15. 14-15. It is clear from these passages that the sufferings of humanity are not to be equated with the pastimes of the Supreme Being, nor is the Supreme Being responsible for them. The Lord is never responsible for anyone's vices or virtues. By vicious actions, we are put into more and more distressful conditions, whereas by pious actions, we place ourselves on the path of happiness. Thus, man is the architect of his own material distress or happiness. The Lord does not want the living entity to become entangled in the reactions of activities, be they good or bad. He simply wants everyone to go back home, back to Godhead. As long as we are not awakened to our pure, eternal relation to God, we are certainly bewildered in our actions. Our actions in respect to right and wrong are all performed on the platform of ignorance. We must rise to the platform of pure knowledge, which is the pure realization that we are the eternal servitors of the Supreme Lord and enjoyers of His transcendental pastimes. The Supreme Lord is the master enjoyer of those pastimes, and we are the servitor enjoyers. Transcendental knowledge is only attainable by transcendental devotional service, as described in Bhagavad Gita. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. Quote, "To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me." Unquote. Bhagavad Gita 10.10. By rendering such devotional service only, and not by merely acquiring a bulk of discriminative knowledge, can we know the Supreme Lord as He is. When we know the personality of Godhead in reality, we can then enter into His pastimes. His pastimes. That is the verdict of all revealed scriptures. Jai, we have completed the second chapter, and tomorrow we're going to start third chapter called Toward a Peaceful Society. Jai. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And yes, may I remind you that the link to this wonderful book is in the description, as well as our email. Please connect with us if you like, and please read this book along or gift it to your friend. As you can see, it really gives a deeper understanding of what is the Supreme Lord, what is karma, and what connection we have to all this. So this was Shravanam Diaries, and we will see you next time. Hare Krishna.